Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here, Jen and Athena. I will now at this point turn it over to Cheryl, but before I do that, I just want to introduce myself. I am Victoria Williams. I am Chair of the State Public Affairs Committee of the Junior Leagues of New Jersey. We represent the 8 junior leagues of New Jersey, and we focus on advancing initiatives that support women, children, and families in New Jersey. So I want to thank you so very much for being here.
Okay, so thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Athena. So I'm happy to introduce both of you. So as you can see, Jennifer Siegel. Jennifer is a policy advisor in the New Jersey Office of the Governor. Her portfolio covers health, human services, children and families, and agriculture. Initiatives on which she focuses include food security, youth mental health, harm reduction, and the opioid crisis and maternal health. Jennifer earned her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from American University in Washington, D.C., and a Master of Public Policy from the Bluestein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University. She previously interned at Mathematica, the U.S. Government Accountability Office, the New Jersey State Policy Lab, and the New Jersey Office of Innovation. She is a proud Eagleton Graduate Fellowship alum and serves as a co-secretary on the Eagleton Alumni Committee. And Athena, thank you, Athena, too. So Athena is a seasoned legislative and public affairs professional with a strong record of service in New Jersey state government. She currently serves as Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs in the Office of Governor Phil Murphy, where she helps drive the administration's legislative agenda, liaises with lawmakers and stakeholders, and provides strategic policy guidance. Her portfolio covers health, children and families, housing and energy. Athena earned her degree in political science from Rider University, where she was an active student in leadership, the Model United Nations, and honor societies. She also serves as chair of Mercer County Young Democrats. So welcome, Jennifer and Athena, and thank you so much for doing this training with us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to Cheryl and Victoria for having us. So nice to meet you all. And thank you for being here on this Monday evening. Athena and I are very happy to be here to share with you some information about how the legislative process works in New Jersey and how you can be better advocates in shaping the legislative process here. So I'm going to share my screen. And go into slideshow. Okay, how do I get it? This always happens with us. Athena, how do I get it to like switch so it doesn't show the note slide? Does anybody know?
I'm not too sure, actually. Mm,
Presentation teams.
by just beginning the slideshow, it still shows the notes.
And can you go to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and just advance the slideshow?
Could. We might have to do that. Okay. So we're going to make this really big so you guys can see. Can everyone see this really well?
And then at the very bottom, if you could go to the right, at the very bottom, you could see it will toggle you to say slideshow, and maybe that will help.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something that Teams does where when you have a double monitor, and I don't know how to fix it.
Okay.
So I apologize. So I think the best way is to do it this way so that you guys can see it all big. Does that make sense?
Fine. That's perfect. I can certainly see it.
Make this small, make this big. Okay, how does that look?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, sorry that I couldn't fix the technical difficulty, but I think we're going to be good here. we have these slides and we're going to walk you guys through a training on the legislative process. And then we're going to have an interactive experience where we all put together an advocacy pitch together. So I'm just going to start by introducing ourselves, as Cheryl already did. I'm Jen Spiegel. I'm a policy advisor in the Governor's Policy Office. I've been here for about 2.5 years, and we're coming in on the end of our administration. My portfolio includes agriculture and food security, health, human services, and children and families. So all of the issues that that are important to you and that you like to advocate on are very important to me as well and close to my heart. Athina?
Hi everyone. I don't want to take up too much time introducing myself because Cheryl, you did a really good job at, going over my little background. But hi again. I'm Athina Fassu. I'm Deputy Director of Legislative Affairs. Basically, my role is to work with the policy team where Jennifer is and council to communicate. I guess governor's front office comments on legislation. Though there might be a little cat noise coming in every once in a while, so please excuse my cat. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do in the governor's office. I've been here for about 3 years now, and like Jennifer said, we're coming to an end of the administration, but the issues that I care about are very similar to those that you guys care about. So I'm happy to be here tonight and hopefully tell you a little bit about how the system works.
So I'll just go over a brief agenda for today's training. We're going to start with explaining a little bit about the New Jersey legislature and how it's made up. And then Athena is going to walk you all through the legislative process in New Jersey. And then she's also going to talk about the way the budget is formed and the legislature's role in forming the budget. And then I'm going to talk about some tips for effective advocacy. I'm also going to walk you through the New Jersey legislature's website and how to use it. And then together, we're going to work on building an advocacy pitch for a piece of legislation. We're going to practice it all together. And then we're going to wrap up and take some questions.
I think this is where I start, right? So understanding the New Jersey legislature. So the legislature is made of the Senate and the Assembly. There's about 40 state senators. Well, not about, there is 40 state senators and 80 assembly members. There's also 40 legislative districts in New Jersey. Um, I think approximately the legislature represents about 230,000 residents, and each legislative district has one senator and two assembly members. So the way that the system works is there's the legislative committees and how a bill kind of gets introduced in those committees and then slowly moves through the process until it is eventually on the governor's desk. So the legislative committees are set up in at you the sorry there's a chair and members chosen by the majority party leadership in each chamber. In the assembly, it would be the assembly speaker, who is currently Craig Coughlin of the District 19th. And in the Senate is the Senate President, Nicholas Scuteri from Union County. And the committees are made up of both Democratic and Republican members. This allows for a pretty fair communication within the committees. The committees, the legislature, and the majority offices work with the Office of Legislative Services. This is a nonpartisan office. Their role is to help policy research, bill drafting, and also fiscal impact statements. I think next slide. Okay, so how a bill becomes a law. This might be a little elementary, but it's always good to go over it. The key stages of how a bill becomes a law is, it starts with the bill drafting, which OLS will usually help facilitate. Sometimes members and staff can draft their version of a bill and then send it over to OLS, but OLS will always kind of have a format that they prefer to go from, and so they'll always kind of edit whatever copy is sent to them into the official OLS document. And then, of course, the bill now goes back to the legislature for introduction. Um, and then it also will be given a committee assignment. That usually is done also by OLS with, I guess, recommendations from the sponsors and staff. Um, and once the bill is introduced and has received a bill number and also a committee assignment, it goes through the committee review process. And this is where, the committees and people of the constituents, lawmakers, lobbyists come together to kind of just talk about the bill, go over any comments and amendments. And within after that, that bill, I don't know if I'm going over it too in detail on this slide, but I'm just kind of on a roll. Jen, please stop me if you think it's coming up in the next slide. But yes, once that is heard in the first committee. This particular legislative body has adopted the second committee rule where they want all bills to go through second reading. I don't think that the Senate does that in the same way that the Assembly does, but the Assembly Speaker has recently preferred the second reading process. It also allows for the bill to really get combed through and comments to go through and amendments to be at least reviewed. Once the bill has gone through committee, first and second reading, it is now sent to the floor, and this is where the entire legislature comes together for a floor vote. Vote on now that bill will also then go to the other chamber and do the same process. Most of the time they work simultaneously, but occasionally one house will move a bill a little bit faster than the other. And once the bill has been passed in both houses, it is then sent to the governor for his action. So I guess I went through it a little quickly. Now I'm going to go a little bit more in detail about how each part works. So the drafting and the introduction of a bill. Legislators usually request a bill drafting through OLS. The bills can be introduced in either chamber. The bill not can, will be introduced in either chamber, in both chambers. And um, and then and then the revenue bills begin in the assembly. Once the bill is introduced, the bills are assigned a bill number and a committee assignment. I definitely said this earlier, but I got ahead of myself there. And then whichever chamber introduces the bill first controls the amendments as the bill moves forward. And here we have kind of like an example of what a bill would look like on the website. So it gets a bill number. We have the Senate version here, but it will also have an assembly number, and they don't always match. One, because there's more members in the assembly than there is in the Senate, and so by default there will be more bills introduced in the assembly. So they don't always match. It's really cool when especially the like um, first bill numbers in the new legislative session. It's really cool when the both houses work in alignment and they are introduced. That's like a little bit of nerdy, fun thing that can happen there for staff, and we get very, very excited when the two things happen simultaneously, but they don't always match. But here we're going to use S3864 as an example moving forward in our slides. This bill was from the 2022 and 2023 session, and it established the New Jersey Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Center Act and appropriates $2.2 million. All right, now sponsors. Each bill requires sponsors. In the Assembly and the Senate, there's the primary sponsors and the co-sponsors. Here you can see that there is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 primary sponsors. This is both the Assembly and the Senate. In this assembly, each bill has two assembly sponsors, up to two Senate sponsors. But in this assembly, there can be three, and sometimes with the speaker's approval, there can be four. But the Senate tries to stay within the two sponsors, and there could be, an infinite amount of co-sponsors. Um, but the primary sponsor, specifically the first prime sponsor, has the most control over the comments of the bill, the amendments that are being made, um, and where the bill kind of lands. Um, I think usually the second and third prime are serve as like support, and also they help to advocate for the bill. So the more popular and strong sponsor, the better chances the bill moves. And you can see here the identical bill number to the Senate version is A5472. Um, but yeah, so each bill is introduced by in their chamber, um, and the sponsors will usually take meetings from stakeholders, from constituents, and from other colleagues in the legislature to kind of flush through every detail of a bill and make sure that it is good to go. And by the time it gets to the governor's office, all that the governor will do is sign the bill because no sponsor wants their bill to not get signed by the governor. They will also coordinate with the party leadership to make sure that they're aligned with their caucuses, their counties, their districts. All right. Now, once the bill is introduced, here comes the role of the committees. The committees, well, really the chair of the committee will set an agenda, and this is this usually these agendas are set up with the help of suggestions from stakeholders, from constituents, other offices, and also just the chairperson's legislative priority for the session. In those committees, the bills will be reviewed, amended, and voted on. Um, and then also they would receive public input through comments and testimonies. Um, I don't know if I heard a noise or somebody wanted to say something, but okay. So here for the same bill that we showed you earlier, we kind of have uh, a timeline of what happens to a bill. The bill gets introduced. It's assigned to the committee. In this one, it was assigned in the Senate Health Committee. And I believe in the Assembly, it was also in the Assembly Health Committee. It was reported from the Senate Committee with amendments and then sent on second reading. And then it was referred to Senate budget, probably definitely because of that 2.2 million appropriation tag. And once it's reported from the Senate with amendments, it then went on for a floor vote where it got a majority vote and it was passed. The same thing happened in the Assembly. Um, and what else? Okay, great. Now, here are all the committees that are available in the legislature. The Senate has a lot less than the Assembly, again, because there are more members, and so there's more chances to kind of split up some of these committees. And I believe they were recently reorganized, I think last session, at the beginning of the last session. I'm not going to go over it, but there they are. Now, once a bill has moved through committee, it then is sent to the floor for a full legislative body vote. There's a board list that is usually sent out to the public, and there usually are full chamber debates, and that most of the time happens within caucus. The Assembly and the Senate have their separate caucuses where they discuss the board list and the agenda. So if any issues come up, that's where they will discuss whether they want to amend the bill, send it back to a committee, maybe remove it from the board list. All that is flushed out in caucus before it officially appears on the board list. So sometimes amending can happen on the floor. It's not preferable. That usually members want that to happen in committee. But occasionally things happen very last minute and floor amendments can happen. The Senate does it a lot less than the Assembly for sure. And each bill needs a simple majority to pass, and then it moves to the second chamber. Again, we love it when they all happen simultaneously, but a lot of times it happens in one and then is sent to the other. Right. Second chamber committee, again, the same thing. They go through committee hearing, they have a floor vote, sometimes a possible substitution and amendments, and then they concur on anything that needs to be amended. All right. Now, the governor's actions, here are the possible actions that the governor can take on a bill. Uh, every member wants their bill signed, approved by the governor. So that's the first one. An absolute veto can happen. This rejects the entire bill and requires a two-thirds vote to override. A conditional veto is where the bill returns with recommended changes, and the legislature may adopt or override those changes. A line item veto removes specific appropriations, applies only to usually budget spending bills. And a pocket veto is if a bill passed during the last 10 days of a 2-year legislative session, which is kind of where we're going into at the end of this next month, and the governor takes no action, the bill automatically dies in the new session and it cannot be overridden. So the bill that we mentioned earlier, it passed with the supermajority and it was approved by the governor in 2023. All right, now the quick budget process. So the budget kind of goes on from August till June, so it's like year round. We're practically just working around that budget. From August to September, the governor and OMB, which is the Office of Management, and I always miss this, Jennifer, banking. Did I get it right?
No, budget.
Budget.
Management and
Budget.
It's
budget.
in the word. It's in the word.
It's
I
in
don't
the
know
word.
why this keeps happening. Management and budget. They review the review of the governor's program priorities happens during this time. They go over economic forecast, demand assumptions. They go over program analysis, preliminary revenue estimates, and they provide a preliminary budget to the departments. And from September to January, the departments and agencies have the ability to provide services within the budget. They also go over their priorities for reduction, because less spending always is the goal. And of course, they create a priority list of expansion for current programs and new programs. And they also review planning documents with OMB. And once that process is done, from January to February, the governor and OMB review and analyze the agency budget requests. They formulate and review budget recommendations. And sometimes this comes from organizations, stakeholders, district offices, and really anybody. And the governor then makes his final decision, and the governor's budget message to the legislature happens usually at the end of February. And then once that's done, that budget is sent over to the legislature. And from February to June, it's the legislature's job to review and analyze this budget, review and analyze or revise revenue estimates, and also Appropriations Act enacted happens by the legislature around this time. And this has to happen by June 30th. And if it doesn't, then we go into a government shutdown. That hasn't happened in a long time. I think if I remember, it was before I started my career, maybe in like 2016 or 17 was the last time there was 2016 there was a budget shutdown, a government shutdown. And then, once that happens in June, the Appropriations Act is reviewed, analyzed, and then the governor signs that budget, hopefully before 12 a.m. on June 30th. We've tried every year to do that early, but for some reason, it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and then the government is funded for another year. and we don't shut down. And then the new fiscal year kicks in on July 1st.
Yes.
One other thing I want to add in about the budget process that makes it different from the federal budget process is that we in New Jersey cannot have an uneven budget, an unbalanced budget. We cannot spend more money than we take in any given year. So we don't build up a debt. It has to be balanced. And that is why all the way back in August and September, OMB is looking at revenue forecasts and economic forecasts to try to understand through our taxation laws how much money we're going to be taking in. They can only spend the amount of money that we're going to take in. And those numbers kind of change throughout the year. So they're constantly revisiting them. But New Jersey is one of these states where the governor is the one who certifies the revenues. So it's very governor centric, but the legislature does have a key role from February to June in holding budget hearings and analyzing and adding things to the budget. So thank you so much, Athina. We're going to take questions at the end, so I'm just going to keep on rolling through. We're going to talk a little bit now about legislative advocacy and how you all can get involved in the legislative process. So first, I just want to talk about a few opportunities that anybody in the state of New Jersey has to engage in the legislative process. So first are committee hearings, right? So Athina talked about the committees, and when they're holding hearings, any bill that is up on the agenda is open for debate or public testimony. So committee hearings are one of the most important points of influence in the legislative process because lawmakers are still forming opinions at that time, amendments are still possible, and the stakeholder testimony that is given directly shapes discussion. So advocates can testify in person or they can submit written statements for the record. But that's a really important opportunity to advocate there. Also, there are public budget hearings as well. This is specifically about the budget, and usually the legislature will hold 3 or 4 public hearing sessions. And during those, anybody can come testify. You can come for, I think you have 3 minutes to testify, but you can testify in anything you want. So it's a really important time to get your voice heard. Also, meetings with legislators are a great way to advocate. You can meet directly with your legislator that represents your district, or you can meet with a sponsor of a bill that you really care about. And this will allow you to explain the impact of the bill on your community and allows you also to build an ongoing relationship with the legislator and their staff for future advocacy. And it helps the legislator really understand on the ground what the real world consequences of their decisions in that bill are. So meetings can be held either in a legislator's district or in Trenton, or more and more these days they can be held on Zoom as well. So it's really accessible if you want to meet with a legislator to talk about a bill. Written testimony we talked about earlier. If you can't come to Trenton in person to testify, you can always submit written testimony. Sometimes those are really good if you want to share data and share things that are better kind of written out, or you can't attend the hearing, or you want your position documented, because those written testimony will be kind of attached on the website to that hearing for anybody, for the public to download. And then coalition building is also really important because your advocacy is stronger when you unite with other organizations that share the same message as you. So when you work together, you can coordinate messaging and you can have a much more emphatic experience with the legislator, a much more effective way to legislate. Okay, so I want to show you the website and just walk you through what the website looks like. The QR code that's on the slides will take you there, but it's also just njleg.gov. It's really easy to go to. So this is the homepage of the legislature. So I'm just going to show you a few key things to help you. First of all, if you're looking for your legislator and you don't know who is representing you, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom to find your legislator, and you can look at district.
Jen, I think we still are seeing the presentation. I don't know if we've been to the website.
Thank you for letting me know. 1 second. Okay, now can you see the website?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So New Jersey Legislature, njleg.gov. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see this section in gold that says find your legislator. And this is really easy. You can go to district map and you can just put your address right in and it'll tell you what district you're in. So I'm going to tell you where I live. I live up in Florham Park. Hold on. This is supposed to work. Wait, I think it did. Okay, there we go. So this little bubble comes up where I live, and you can see that I live on the very end of the 26th district. So when I click the 26th district, I can see that my senator is Joe Panaccio and my assembly members are Brian Bergen and Jay Weber. And I can click see district details to see who they are. I can even email them directly from this website. You can also find your legislator by going to members, and then you can look at your Senate and Assembly seating charts. And that will show you exactly who is in the assembly or in the legislature and what they look like. It's a really easy way to find your legislator. So if you were looking for bills, let's say you care about a specific issue, there's multiple ways that you can search bills on this website. If you know the bill number, you can put the bill number right in. That's the easiest way to do it. But you can also search by keyword, or you can search by subject as well. And there's a whole bunch of different subjects pre-listed. So in this scenario, we're using as an example S3864. And this is from the last legislative session in 2022-2023. And I'm going to click submit, and the bill comes right up. So when I click this bill, all of those screenshots that we showed you come up here. We can see the bill number, the legislative session, a brief description of what the bill does. We can see the identical bill. We can see all the sponsors, the whole list of the status of the bill, which is really important when you're legislating, when you're advocating, because they're going to want to know, has this passed the Senate? Has this passed the House? What committee is it in? So this is important to tell you that. And then you can actually read the bill here. So you can read the bill as it was when it was first introduced. But if there are later versions of it, you want to check the most recent version because there might have been amendments that have been made to it. So in this instance, because this has become law, pamphlet law is what it's called when it's like, it's done, this is the law. So if you click that, pamphlet law, you can read the full bill. And usually at the very end of a bill, let's see if this one has it. This one doesn't. Sometimes at the very end of the bill, there will be a statement. Here, you can read it in statement here. And that's more of a summary explaining what the bill does. That's not in like all of the legalese and makes it a little bit easier to understand. So if you can find a statement, that can be a little bit more helpful. And then also on this website, right here is the legislative schedule. And this can be really important because it lets you know when those committee hearings are. Committees usually meet on Mondays and Thursdays here in New Jersey, but when you get towards the end of the legislative session, they might be meeting all the time, but it's usually Mondays and Thursdays. So you can click a date and you can see which committees are meeting, like today, Assembly Health met, as well as Assembly Commerce and Assembly Regulated Professions. And if we look next week, we can see that Senate Environment is meeting next Monday. So this calendar will tell you when these meetings are. And then if you click it, so I'm going to click Assembly Health, which met earlier today, it will tell you all of the bills that they talked about, and it will tell you the status of them and what happened during the committee. Also up here where it says membership and archive proceeding, if the committee hearing has already happened, you can click archive proceeding and you can listen to the whole thing. This is audio only. Sometimes there's video. Most of the time it's audio, but you can listen to it. If it's currently going on right now, it will say live proceeding and you can watch it live online. There's also sometimes the opportunity if, actually, let's see if this has happened yet for Senate. No, I don't see it yet, but sometimes it'll say here, register to testify. And you can use that link there if you want to add your name in to either testify in person or submit written testimony. You have to get it after they posted the agenda, but before they've actually had the hearing. So sometimes that's up here on the website. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you is that at the very bottom, it says New Jersey's budget in blue here, and this is where you can find all of the budget documents. This is usually a lot more here during budget season, which is February to June, but this is like your go-to for all the budget documents. So that's a walkthrough of this website. I know there's a lot there, but you can play around with it. You can look for different bills that might be of interest to you. And now we're back on here. You should see the PowerPoint again. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a few tips for effective advocacy that'll help you when you're making your pitch to a legislator. So the first thing is really simple. Know the bill number, know the sponsor, and know the status of the bill. The first thing they're going to ask you is, where is it? Has it passed the other chamber? Is it in the first committee? Is it in the second committee? What committee it's in? Who's sponsoring it? The staff want to know all of this information because it will let them know who they need to talk to if they want to push this bill, or really like what chance it actually has of getting through. So you can get all that information on the website and have that at your hand when you're ready to go. You want to be concise and clear about your ask. You're going to want to say whether you're for or against the bill, and whether you want it passed as is, or there's specific amendments that you think that you want to be made for it. So be very clear when you talk to a legislator about what you're looking for. When you're talking to a legislator, it's really a good idea to bring in real stories and real life examples from your own personal experience, because it makes this legislation, which can be really dry to read, it makes it human. It makes us understand the impact that it has on our community and on our lives and on the constituents that these legislators serve. So it's really good to come in and tell a personal story about how something has impacted you or might impact you in the future, or someone you know, or a loved one, or someone you work with. The next thing is you should really know how much it will cost, because all the time people will ask you, how much does it cost? And that doesn't necessarily mean it has an appropriation. Obviously, if it has an appropriation attached to the bill, then it will cost that much. But there are a lot of times when a bill is out there that does not have an appropriation, but you need to think about, okay, is this increasing Medicaid rates, for example? That's going to cost money. Is this going to expand a program or service to a larger population? That's going to cost money. So it's a good idea to have an understanding on what kind of systems might be impacted by this bill. And if you can have some type of estimate of how much it would cost, it's really helpful to the legislature. Sometimes a bill will have an OLS fiscal estimate that you can find on the website I just showed you, and that will give you a better understanding of how much the bill might cost. You want to build relationships with the staff because they are key. If you're a regular advocate, you might be advocating on different bills all the time, and you might be going back to the same staff members, and you can say, hi, I talked to you last month about this other bill, or hi, I met you at this event. Building relationships kind of gets your foot in the door and makes legislators remember you and know who to go back to if they have questions about a bill. And you also want to follow up. It's always good to create a one-pager that has who you are and what your ask is. That way, at the end of the meeting, you could say, I'm going to send you follow-up materials, and you could send them that one-pager. You don't want it to be extensive. People are very busy and they don't have time to read, huge reports, but just a one-pager with your ask and who you are and your contact information can be really important. And then, like we talked about earlier, it's great to join coalitions. You can testify, or you can advocate with people from other organizations that have the same goals as you, and that just amplifies your message. So basically, the key takeaways are that the legislative process is participatory. It doesn't just happen in Trenton in the State House, it happens all across the state. Committees are very influential. Those are the places where the moving and the shaking of the bills actually happen. Advocacy can shape policy, and advocacy is stronger when organizations work together. So because you can be advocates, you can also shape policy. So that's what's really important here. Okay. So we have a few minutes, and we're going to put together a practice advocacy pitch. Now, this is a bill that already passed, already signed, is already being implemented right now. So it should be not controversial, right? Obviously, Governor Murphy and the First Lady are very much behind this bill. It established the Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Center. And this bill did a lot of different things. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary of it so that we can practice together on how to advocate for this legislation. So this created a New Jersey Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Authority. An authority is like a state entity. It's like an agency, but it's a little bit different, but it created an authority with a board that's specifically looking at how to improve maternal and infant health in New Jersey. The authority is going to run a center in Trenton, a physical location that's going to have clinical care and also research and social work and a ton of other things in it that's going to be focused in Trenton, where we've seen that there's been a lot of disparities in maternal and infant health. It's going to coordinate with the existing maternal care quality collaborative to reduce maternal mortality and morbidity, especially racial and ethnic disparities. It's setting up a board. It's setting up also a community advisory committee. It's setting up a special fund for financing, which is where that 2.22 million comes from. It's giving the authority the ability to make grants, give loans, contract for services, all of the things that the authority is going to need to be an effective entity in government. And lastly, it's requiring a report to the governor and the legislature on its activities. So now all of this stuff is in like this a 20-page long bill, but this is just kind of pulling out the most important details of it. So when we talk about what this bill does and why it's important to us, these are just the key facts to remember. And then some other information that you're going to want to have is knowing who the sponsors are. So here we have our prime sponsors. And it's important to note that we have LD15 represented on both the Senate and Assembly side. LD15 contains Trenton, right? So this is a lot of money going to Trenton to set up this new center. And it's also containing LD29, which contains Newark. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at sponsors. Who is this bill benefiting? Who is it benefiting the most? And why are these sponsors getting behind this bill? And then, of course, you need to know the cost. The cost is that it appropriates $2.22 million. Okay. I've thrown a lot at you, so let's see how we're doing here. I want you guys to come off mute, and I'm going to write in some things here. What are some reasons that we should support this bill?
Health disparity. So to make sure that everyone, there's some equanimity with being having access to healthcare.
Absolutely. What else?
Well, it's my recollection that part of what spurred this was that we were near the bottom of the 50 states in infant mortality, and that was just unacceptable for a state with the resources that we have.
You're absolutely right. We were, I believe the talking point is we went from 48th in the country to 25th since Governor Murphy has taken office. But that's absolutely correct. What are some other reasons we should support this legislation?
Supporting better quality of life and quality of care.
Great.
Yeah, closing the economic gap as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, these are all great reasons. Does anyone else have any other reasons? They could be policy reasons, they could be economic reasons. Okay, great. This is a really great starting point. So let's remember these points. We want to close health disparities. We are near the bottom of 50 states in infant mortality, so we want to improve on that. We want better quality of life and quality of care for our mothers and babies in New Jersey, and we want to close economic gaps. Now let's think about some personal reasons why we should support this legislation. What kind of stories can we tell a legislator about our own personal experiences for why this is important?
In my view, there's this myth that, women of color can tolerate, have a high tolerance for pain. And so they're not heard if there's, in fact, they're not, feeling comfortable or, they're not, perhaps just not taken seriously. So I can certainly, I certainly have personal stories around that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's really important. There was a news article from this past week about a woman in Indiana who was turned away from a hospital 8 minutes before giving birth. She was a woman of color, and I think NBC News put the story out, and then the very next day, the president of the hospital said, the nurse and the doctor in her care have been fired, and we apologize, but we need to look at our implicit bias, and we need to look at the way that we are treating the women who come into our hospital, and we need to change our policies. So it's just one horrible story out of many horrible stories that are out there. Does anyone else have like more of a personal reason for why this legislation would be important?
Just to say that critical care is just that, personal care, that it should be individualized and not generalized. And this bill would help many in that category.
Okay, great.
I was going to add
organizations across the state of New Jersey that are nonprofit, that are grassroots and seeing firsthand what's happening and rolling up their sleeves and dealing with maternal health issues, particularly in underserved communities. And it's so important to ensure that consistent support is provided to those organizations so they can do the work that falls between the gap between the patient and the hospital system. It's one thing to have people trained, but they're still falling through the gaps. And the organizations that are on the ground, like the Partnership for Maternal and Child Health of New Jersey, like Melanated Moms, like Perinatal Health Equity, these are organizations that are actually doing day-to-day work because not enough is done. And it's really important to support these groups in order to get the work and to reach these mothers that are in need.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay.
And economically, and in terms of economically, it is a drain on the healthcare system when you consistently have mothers coming in at the very last minute for care, and the costs associated with that could easily be addressed if care is administered earlier on with proper prenatal and postnatal care that is consistent to address matters long before they become in crisis acute mode.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that, Christine. The postnatal care, it was a huge gap that was identified, at least through our leagues. The insurance providers, public and private, seem to think that giving birth ends only a few days and in some cases a few weeks after birth. And in fact, a lot of the danger zone was significantly further out than that. And there was a hole in the bucket as to getting information on exactly what was happening during that time period and who was safe and who was not safe. And, you know, that was very uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have an emergency response system, which does not identify when you call an ambulance where you are. It does not, the dispatch system in this state on emergency care does not send you directly to some place that is the nearest emergency care trauma center that can take care of your problem. And a lot of the time people are delivered immediately to the closest ER or trauma, you know, designated trauma center that does not have the facilities or the equipment to deal with any of these emergencies.
Absolutely. You guys are all making such great points. Let's try to put these points together now into an advocacy pitch. So we're just going to take everything you've already said and we're just going to organize it in a way where everybody can say their spiel and then move on to the next person. Okay. So let's think of all of these points. We're going to be talking to Senator Turner, who's the prime sponsor. and we're having a virtual meeting with her. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to introduce ourselves from being from the Junior Leagues of New Jersey. Who wants to do that introduction? Just saying, we're from the Junior Leagues and this is, what our mission is. This is what the organization is about.
Okay, I'll say that. Okay.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to make the list and then we're going to put it all together. We're going to practice. Okay, great. Okay, and then the next is bill summary. Who wants to tell us what the bill is and what it does? And I know you don't have all of the information in front of you in the slides, but like it can just be, brief. Does anyone feel comfortable doing like a quick, we're here advocating for the Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Act? Okay, Athena, I'm putting you on this. Okay, Athena, you're just going to do the bill summary. And then the first one is we're going to do reason one, why it's important. Who wants to share one of the reasons that we had from here? Closing health disparities, closing economic gaps, we're near the bottom, better quality of life and quality of care. Who wants to just briefly summarize that statement, why this is important to support this legislation?
I can do that.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
Great. And now let's do a personal example. And this can be, it could be you, like what you personally experienced, but it could also say, I work in this sphere and this is what I see every day. You could say, when, I was having my child, or when my granddaughter was having their child, or I have a story from that my mother tells me. It could be anything like that, but connecting to yourself and your own experiences always makes it that much more valuable to the legislator. Does anybody want to kind of use these examples to tell a very quick story?
I can.
Renee?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Let's then do a wrap up. Okay. We're Junior Leagues. Thank you for meeting with us today. We really would appreciate your support in supporting this legislation. Really like that simple. And we're going to send you an email with some follow-up information. Who would like to say that?
Jen, I feel like you'll be a good wrap up.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Obviously we can have more speakers here, and I know that everybody wants to participate, but we're just trying to keep it short and sweet for practice. You guys should feel free though to pick any legislation that's out there and practice amongst yourselves. And the more you practice, the better you get. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a run through with this speaking order. And I'm just going to say, remember that when you're done speaking, first of all, each of you should speak for no more than a minute, right? Because legislators are busy, they don't know how much time. We're going to try to make this whole pitch 5 minutes. And when you're done speaking, you should pass it off to the next person, right? So you have a script. And so Victoria should say, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass it to Athena. And Athena should say, I'm going to pass it to Cheryl. And that makes the transitions much more smooth, because we don't love dead air on Zoom, right? It's nothing more awkward than dead air. Okay, so I have a slide that says, let's practice, but I'm going to go back here so you guys can see this. Okay, we ready to start? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Wait, so for the Senator Turner part, is that?
yeah, it's not really a number. Hold on. It's just information that we're talking to Senator Turner. Okay. So you can say, hello, good afternoon, Senator Turner. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. That's about it.
Okay. Hello, Senator Turner. Thank you for meeting with us today. My name is Victoria Williams. I'm chair of the State Public Affairs Committee of the Junior Leagues of New Jersey. We advocate on behalf of women and children in New Jersey, and we look forward to working with legislators like yourselves to advance those initiatives supporting families across the state.
It's like you've done
And
this
then I'd
before.
like to now pass this on to Athena.
Hi, Senator Turner. I'm Athina Fassu, member of the the Junior Leagues of New Jersey, and we're here to talk to you today about your bill, S 3864, which establishes the New Jersey Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Center Act and also appropriates $2.2 million. And I'll pass it on to my colleague, Cheryl.
Hi, Senator Turner. So the reason why we need this bill is because New Jersey is still one of the highest in infant mortality. And there's a great health equity discrepancy between the different sections of the population. So we would, and I will pass it on to Renee.
Okay. It is a drain on the healthcare system when moms consistently come in late for care. And I personally know someone who went in late for prenatal care. She developed gestational diabetes, and I'm sure there are many other women who would benefit from having this bill passed, and it would decrease the strain on the healthcare system. And I'm passing it to Jen.
Thank you so much, Renee. And it's so good to be here with you today, Senator Turner. We just want to emphasize that for all of these reasons, closing maternal gaps and providing better care for women and babies, we really urge you to support this bill. We think it's really important for residents of the state of New Jersey. And we just really want to thank you for your time today. We're going to be sending you a follow-up one-pager with all of the information about this bill, and we hope that you'll reach out to us with any questions that you have. Thanks again for your time. Yay!
Yay!
Round of applause, everyone. No, obviously that was like super quick. You can have more people talking. You can talk for longer. You can leave a little bit of time for a question and answer session if you want. If there's time to go back and forth with the staffer or the legislator you're meeting with. We just kind of did it quick and dirty right now. But the more that you do it, the more that you practice, the more comfortable you'll get speaking about a bill and speaking with a legislator. And you have to remember that they are there to serve you. They want to hear from you. You are their constituent. They want to know what you're thinking. And so you shouldn't feel like intimidated in any of these situations because they're speaking to constituents all day, every day. And they're very happy to be meeting with you, especially people who are passionate about what they're advocating for. So congratulations, everybody. Feel free to practice this on your own. Feel free to look up current legislation that you're passionate about, that you want to advocate for. You have until January 20th of this legislative session, and then there will be a brand new legislative session starting with brand new legislation to work with. Does anybody have any questions? I'll stop sharing. We'll be happy to answer questions.
I had a question about OLS. Is it appropriate at any time for constituents or members of the public to have direct contact with OLS regarding specific bills?
No, so the public can go through the legislature to get information on bills. OLS works directly for and with the legislature. Even the governor's office does not have access to OLS. I guess they serve the legislature specifically.
They're basically like the research and legal team.
Mm-hmm. They can participate in meetings and answer some questions, but that has to be facilitated through the members and the sponsors of the bills.
Oh, that's a big help. Thank you. So the sponsors of the bills could schedule a meeting with constituents and OLS representatives if that communication is useful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
I think for the most part, when that might happen is if they're in the process of planning for a bill and stakeholders might have like specific expertise in an area that can benefit the OLS researcher. For the most part, OLS is not going to provide any information that's not already publicly available.
No, of course that makes sense. Thank you.
This has been fantastic. And what's great is that we've recorded this so we can actually all go back and just kind of kind of practice the practice, which I think will be super helpful. And as part of this legislative training series, this is giving us the tools necessary that when we are preparing, as we are right now, working on our policy briefs, where we are identifying bills that we individually want to support or that resonate with us, and then we're focused on, okay, making it concise in a one pager. Okay, so I got that from our last training, making it just concise. And what I gathered from this training, okay, I need to put some, you know, details in there that's relevant, some personal stories, something that's eye-catching, but making sure that it's brief, concise, to the point, because we don't have a whole lot of time. And so that's what I've taken away from this, and then just being able to just put some language around that in a way to be able to pitch that in a committee hearing or a session, what have you. So certainly this was very helpful to me. I'm obviously to all of us, but certainly it's resonating with us, because our ultimate goal is to be able to attend a committee session or a hearing and be able to testify on some of the issues that are relevant and that are that we support and certainly resonate with our platform and mission. So thank you so very much, Jen and Athena, for your time and giving us all of this information. This, I always call it nuggets of knowledge, just to be able to carry us through. So appreciate that. Anybody else that you'd like to ask any
And
questions?
just so you guys know, the legislative sessions are all public. Anybody can come in. You don't need to pre-register if you're not going to testify and you just want to sit in the back and listen. You're welcome anytime that they're going on. And it's really interesting, especially to go to the full floor hearings, because that's when the entire legislative chamber is voting. I will say that for those, though, there's typically less debate and more just quick voting. So the committee hearings are where there's a little bit more debate going on, but come on down to Trenton anytime and
Do we have
see
to
it for yourself.
register for that? Do we have to register, or we can't just show up if we want
Yes.
to?
You do have to register, and on the website, usually a few days before the committee hearing, the same place where you would see the committee agenda, a button will pop up with like testify or register to testify. We couldn't show that to you today because we don't have future agendas set already. But usually when you click on the date and you have the agenda, the same way that there's like a live proceedings button on the day of the committee, there will be a register to testify button for before the committee.
But if you just want to listen, can you just come?
If you just want to listen, you can just come, but it's just sometimes like, those rooms are packed and stuff, and yeah.
Okay,
So I
that's
had a
good.
question about caucus meetings. You said that even once it's passed through the committees, it doesn't get put up on the floor until it's been through the caucus meeting. That's the
Uh,
meeting of the
No,
parties.
so the agenda is set, and then the caucus meetings is kind of where they flesh out any last minute concerns or comments that may have happened between setting the agenda and the voting session. Last minute things get thrown at the legislature all the time. So caucus is just kind of their space, their private space. Each um,
Yeah, but
each
those aren't public.
yeah, those aren't public, and each office has its own caucus. There's the majority office. So the for right now, because the assembly has the majority, it'll be the assembly caucus gathering to look at the agenda and figuring that out. And the Senate also has their assembly Democrats and Republican caucuses. So there are four caucuses that kind of go over the agenda and discuss any concerns, and sometimes, figure out any kind of negotiation tactics.
Is there a version of like reconciliation, which would be at the federal level, to bring wording and discrepancies together between the two houses?
Can you, I don't know if I
So,
understood your question correctly. Can you reframe
so
that?
you're saying if there's two different bills that are similar but not exactly the same, how do they rectify that? Is that what you're asking? Oh, did she drop?
I think she did.
Oh, okay. Well, what usually happens is that, like, let's say a bill passes in the Senate and then the Assembly says, we're not good with this, we need to fix it. And they pass a different but similar bill in the Assembly. What will happen is they'll go back to the Senate and the Senate will be asked to concur with the Assembly bill. And if the Senate says, yeah, we're okay with your changes, they'll vote to concur and then we're good, the bill is passed.
Sorry.
So I'll go back. I'll go back and I'll re-answer it. So
Sorry.
if
Okay, thanks. Whoopsie. I don't know what happened. Technology.
So the Senate and the Assembly have two different bills that are similar, but they're not exactly identical, and they need to make sure that they're identical in order to pass. So let's say, for example, the Senate passes a bill, the Assembly gets it and says, we're not good with this, we want to make some changes. So they make some changes and then pass it. It would go back to the Senate, and the Senate would say, okay, we're good with their changes, we're going to vote to concur, which means we're good with the Assembly changes. Or they might say, we're not really good with your changes, we need to figure this out. And then what they would do is they would have a joint committee. That's a little bit rarer to happen, and it would only really happen on like very important bills, I would think. But they would have to have a joint committee where they would have hearings and they would work out the differences between the bills.
Okay, thanks. That answers the question.
So you might think that if a bill passes one chamber, then it's set and done, but it's not. It's never set and done in the legislature because the other chamber can amend it.
Right. And the governor has only got a line item veto in New Jersey for budget items. Is that correct? Or can they line item veto other things?
It's usually in the Appropriations Act that's passed every year as the budget. And you'll see when he signs it, he will send out a memo that says, here are specific things I changed. And sometimes he will veto an entire line item, but a lot of times he's just making technical edits, saying you put the wrong year in there, or you put the decimal in the wrong place, or things like that. Those are all count as line item vetoes. But generally,
but he can't strike out entire things.
He can remove an entire budget line item. He cannot add a budget line item.
Okay. And what is the threshold for something to have to go through the budget committee? Is there a threshold that is so low that they can just wave it through?
You mean like a dollar amount?
Right.
It's actually not that specific. I mean, in general, it's good for something that has an appropriation to go to the budget committee. But I actually found this out last time. There was a bill that had no appropriation, no fiscal impact at all, and it was in the budget committee. And I said, why? And they said, well, it needs to be voted on in a second reading, and it's the only committee that's meeting this week.
Oh, okay. So right. Is there the equivalent of a rules committee that can bypass that?
Athina?
I think so.
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Well, thanks.
We'll see that towards the end of the legislative session, a lot of these rules get mixed a little bit because people want their bills passed and they'll do what they need to do to get them passed. So that's when you might find bills in committees that you wouldn't think of them in, or that's when those joint committees might happen.
So in this lame duck session, that's actually right
because
there.
Every single bill will die at the end of this legislative session. Right. Now they can get reintroduced the next legislative session, but it has to go through that process all over again in the next session. So
and when does the pre-filing start?
Pre-filing usually starts like first thing new session. And it takes a moment for it to kind of go back into the members.
Right.
So
and
right
sometimes
now, probably figuring out their list for next year. Yeah.
Right. So now's a good time to talk about it.
Right. They have a moment. They are prepared, and they'll send it before the end of the session, so it's kind of prepared.
So watch this lame duck. Anything can happen. It should be exciting. Hopefully we'll get a lot of legislation
I
passed.
did-
That's good.
By the way, I did hear December 11th is when there's a voting session. I don't know if you guys have that on your calendar. If
The
that is correct.
agenda should be public on the website.
I-
It
Is there a
should say when the voting
5-day
sessions
rule
are.
that the committee hearings have to have what, a 4-day?
Yeah, there's a
now?
5-day rule.
The 5-day rule, yeah.
And
Don't know
what
if
is
we
5
follow that
Those of us
100%.
don't know what that is.
5 business days, right? Doesn't count weekends.
Yes.
There's
Okay.
an assembly voting session on Monday, December 8th, and a Senate voting session on Thursday, December 18th.
Okay, so nothing on the 11th. So
And then on the 22nd, both the Senate and Assembly are voting.
On the
But they
11th,
can
I believe
change
there's
that.
a quorum, so there might be committee that day.
Okay.
Mm.
So December 22nd is both chambers are in session.
Yes.
Has it happened that they've done that and not gotten quorum?
I'm sure it has in the past. I have to look back in history. But in my time, I don't think it has happened yet. They've gotten closer. There have been times where it's like, get here now. Calls that happen.
Yeah.
Maybe during the pandemic we
I was
had.
going to say, don't we have that they can phone it in, right? Under certain
I don't
circumstances, or
know if
no?
it is extended to now. I think that was during the pandemic. It might have been an executive order then to address that. But right now, I think they have to come in and they have to be in the state of New Jersey.
So that was a federal battle for women who were pregnant
Mm-hmm.
and maternity leave.
Yes, I know. I can't remember the name of the the representative who fought for this, but I don't
Right.
know if it has passed in the
If
federally.
we have that in New Jersey. I think it did, but I don't know if we have it in New Jersey.
I'm not sure. I would have to look into it.
And is there a list of what the legislators will be voting on? Is there?
That's the agenda.
That's
Yeah.
the agenda. Okay. Well,
And
that's
that, like
So
you said, goes out like usually, hopefully 5 days before.
okay. So that will be interesting for us to maybe take a look and see what they're actually what's on the agenda.
Of
So
course.
you want to pay attention to the committee hearings to see what the committees are voting on and passing out of committee. But during those full voting sessions, there'll be a board list. And that's everything that it's already been through 2 committees, because it can't be on the board list if it hasn't gotten through its 2 committees. And if it's on the board list, chances are it's going to pass, right? Because they're not usually going to put anything up on the board list if there's even a chance that it wouldn't pass. So these are pretty much the leadership has determined, okay, these are priorities for us. We want these to pass, and we have enough members who are going to vote for it. And so that board list is really important, because when you see it on the board list, it's probably going to pass.
And that board list gets posted when?
Usually 5 days before the day.
Okay.
But of course, bills can be removed from that board list up until the very last minute. So that's why like advocacy is important to to keep pushing. So that at times problematic bills are on a board list, and it's important for advocates and constituents to call in if they do not want that bill to be voted on, because like Jen said, most of the time when it is on that board list, it probably will pass.
So the key dates right now are December 8th, 15th, and 22nd.
Yeah, and there's
there are
more into
dates.
January too. You should just take a look at that NJ Ledge website and just click on the different dates, and it will tell you voting session means the full chamber's voting, or it will tell you what committees. If it says quorum, it could be either, right?
If it says quorum, it could be a committee, or it can just be that the you can introduce bills basically, because you can only introduce bills when there's a quorum.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody's introducing anything at this point.
Oh no, you'd be surprised.
Really?
There's stuff that they've been sitting on all summer that now that they're finally back in session, they can introduce.
And also these dates can change, things can come up. So it's just always good to look at that calendar and see what's coming up.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Sometimes meetings
Well,
get canceled, so it's good to know.
COVID was just such a blur of weirdness. Getting back to regular order will feel really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarification.
Well, thank you all. Thank you so very much. This was great information. Jen, Athena, thank you for your expertise and knowledge. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Cheryl, did you have anything to close us out?
Thank you so much. So this was a good Toastmasters rush, but we'll be unpacking it. We'll be putting this to our website and practicing over and over again. Everybody has their policy briefs, so they can be basically referring to this video and going over everything that you've gone over. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you guys have been working so hard on this, and we can't wait to get to hopefully see you guys in person soon. And thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having us. This was really fun. It was great to meet all of you.
And thank you for picking our favorite bill as your example.
It was Athena who picked it. Props to you, Athena. Yeah.
I'll just
That
ask
was a Junior League
our
favorite.
committee to stay. Hold on. I'll just ask our committee to stay on just for a couple of minutes after we end.